Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 12th episode of the Startup Boston podcast. I want to give a big thank you to Shay Coakley, founder and CEO at Leanbox, who you can listen to in episode 8 for providing me an introduction to today's guest. And today's guest is Brett Maloley, co-founder and CEO of Ladder. Brett grew up in the fitness industry with his father being an owner of health clubs and an owner of an equipment distribution company. Brett uncovered his passion for the fitness industry when he realized he wasn't going to become a professional athlete and spent time working for his father's friend in the fitness industry selling flooring. From there, Brett went on to start multiple companies in the fitness industry, with Ladder being his third. Ladder connects individuals to health and wellness professionals through digital coaching. Ladder uses what it defines as the 4 rungs: fitness, nutrition, sleep, and stress management to make up a happy and healthy lifestyle. In this episode, Brett shares why he wanted to start a platform-based business, how Ladder uses cognitive behavioral therapy to help identify the needs of the user, and why the commercial fitness industry needs to change in order to survive. And if you happen to be looking for a good book to read, I have 2 options for you. Brett mentions a lot of good books towards the end of our interview, most of which I've also read and recommend myself. Also, this week in the book giveaway, I'm giving away a copy of The Power of Habit: Why We Do What We Do in Life and Business by Charles Duhigg. This book is really one of my all-time favorites and has spent over 60 weeks on the New York Times bestseller list. In the book, Charles talks about why habits exist and how they can be changed. The Power of Habit uncovers how the key to exercising regularly, losing weight, being more productive, and achieving success is understanding how habits work. To enter into the giveaway, make sure you subscribe and leave a review of the podcast on iTunes. Enjoy today's episode. Brett, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Of course.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself before we get started?
Sure. I'm from Boston originally. Went to school down in Florida. This is my 3rd company called Ladder. We started it in June of last year. Gone through a couple beta tests, a lot of user research, and we've got, give or take, 3 months to go before we launch the product.
So you've been involved in the fitness industry now for most of your career, right? What was initially attracted you to that industry in order to work there?
Well, I actually grew up in the fitness industry. So my father had been in the industry as an owner of health clubs and also as the owner of a equipment distribution company. So my earliest memories, some of them were, being in the child care facility at some of his health clubs and, just kind of surrounding myself with the industry. I was an athlete growing up. So personally, I was very interested in the human body as a 5'10" outfielder with not a heck of a lot of power. I was always trying to, make sure that my body was as good, as strong, as fast as it could be. And when I realized that I wasn't going to play baseball for the rest of my life, I had to get a job. And I guess kind of stumbled into the fitness industry. And I guess that's where I like to say I didn't realize that I was so passionate about it. I kind of uncovered my passion for the industry. And that was about 10 years ago. So I've been in the space ever since.
When would you say that you started to realize that you had a passion for the industry?
It's actually a great question. So when I realized I wasn't going to play baseball for the rest of my life, I moved out to Santa Barbara. And I lived with one of my dad's best friends who has since become a mentor of mine. His name's John Donati. So he was one of the first employees at Nautilus, which was one of the first equipment manufacturers, and went on to have a very successful career in the industry. And when I was living with John, it was a totally unique experience for me. He lived on an avocado plantation in Santa Barbara, and he only ate food that was grown on his property for the most part and exercised twice a day. I was an intern for him in his flooring company, him and my father's flooring company that sold flooring to the commercial fitness industry. And I learned more in that, 4 or 5 months than I probably did in my previous 20 years on Earth. And it was just a really cool opportunity to be around him and guys like my dad that had really started the industry, because the commercial fitness industry, as we know it, is very young. It's only been around for 4 or 5 decades. So being able to spent some time with some of the people that were there at the beginning who made huge sacrifices and really started something from nothing was super inspiring, because I saw an industry that, while at the very beginning was very innovative, has been, for the most part, pretty stagnant since.
So tell us more about Ladder.
So Ladder is a platform that connects people with health and wellness professionals via digital coaching, and it launches hopefully by November.
How did you identify the need for it?
To be honest with you, when we left our previous company and started Ladder, we didn't know exactly what we wanted to do with that platform business model. We had come out of a company where we were leveraging the model to distribute a product. So we had a product marketplace, and we kind of dove into the user research without a real finite understanding of what our actual product would be. It was probably about 2 months of user research that we started to get a far more finite grasp on the specific product problem fit that we wanted to work with, and that was coaching. When we look at the existing landscape relative to health and wellness coaching, on one side of the fence, we've got about 8% of the fitness industry, or 8% of gym members, rather, working with a coach, paying on average $68 per session and training 1.22 times per week, with the average monthly cost coming in at about $348. On the other side of the fence, we've got a few 100,000 fitness professionals that, believe it or not, are making just $11.57 per hour when you account for the fact that they're working close to 11 hours per day and have a tremendous amount of unused time during the day, roughly 4 hours. So we saw an opportunity to essentially leverage the excess capacity of human capital relative to health and wellness professionals, increasing their ability to monetize their time and improve their core competency, while delivering a solution to consumers that was far more affordable. When we look at the existing relationship between personal trainers and their clients, we believe that a significant majority of that relationship can be productized through technology. And that's our goal, to create an affordable solution for consumers to get access to health and wellness coaching, while simultaneously improving the profession of health and wellness coaching.
They said that you knew that you wanted to start something that was platform based, right? Why was that? How did you know that was what you wanted to go into?
Just because at our previous company, we had seen how powerful that model was, and when we started to look at the landscape across almost every other vertical, we were super bullish on the platform business model and its ability to disrupt, and its ability to scale, and its ability to solve problems in a more affordable and effective manner. So when looking at our belief that the commercial fitness industry needed to change and needed to evolve, it was our feeling that the best way to do that was by implementing a true platform business model. I often say that when you look at the entire health and wellness industry, I see it as somewhat of a race between the direct-to-consumer market and the commercial market, a race that in often cases the commercial market is losing, but it doesn't have to, because it has more access to users than the other side of the fence does. Someone just has to create the asset that will allow for those interactions and enable the experiences to take place and actually provide that governance.
Now, Ladder uses the 4 rungs that you've defined, right, to make up a truly healthy and happy lifestyle. Can you describe what those 4 rungs are? Yeah,
so the 4 rungs that we talk about are fitness, nutrition, sleep, and stress management. Oftentimes when people look at objectives in the fitness industry, they are somewhat high level. And we believe it's very important to dig a little deeper and find out, why people want to achieve certain goals. No one wants to have a six-pack for the sake of having a six-pack. It would usually, or oftentimes might be, to make them more confident or feel more comfortable or whatever. It doesn't matter what their why is, if you will. But the solution is usually holistic in nature. It's not just exercise. It's not just nutrition. It's not just living a less stressful life. In most cases, it's a combination. And that's what we really want to provide. From day one, we've always said that the reason Ladder exists is to help people find happiness through health and wellness. And we kind of came to that over the years. I had constantly struggled with the question, why do people join health clubs? And a lot of the data out there is, aggregated from giving people a multiple choice scenario. And it always comes down to a number of different things: a healthier lifestyle, a better appearance. But we believe that where health and wellness can be very powerful is in acting as the lever that helps people become happier, whether that's being able to play catch with their son or sit down at their dinner table without experiencing back pain, or, losing some weight and feeling more confident. Everyone has their own issues. We believe that health and wellness is a powerful lever to drive happiness, and we just want to help as many people experience it as possible.
I think that most people understand the benefits of fitness and nutrition, but can you talk about the importance that sleep quality and stress control play in a healthy lifestyle?
Yeah, sure. And I'm not a doctor, so I apologize if I speak out of tune here. But looking at my personal situation right now, I'm 5'10". I probably weigh about 235 pounds right now, which is probably about 15 pounds heavier than I'd like to be. But believe it or not, I've actually lost about 20 pounds in the last couple months and was in the worst shape of my life. And, being a former athlete and having the opportunity to train at some of the best training facilities in the world, I know how to exercise and I know how to eat. But I was experiencing a lot of weight gain because starting a new company, I'm super stressed. My cortisol levels are through the roof. I'm not eating like I should be. And though I was exercising every morning in a similar fashion to how I had always exercised, the result wasn't what I wanted it to be. So between myself and my co-founders and a lot of the user research we did, we identified a number of different people that were focusing on things that might not be that important to them at the given times. Me, for example, I didn't necessarily need someone to work with me on lifting weights. I needed someone to help me relative to the process of nutrition and help hold me accountable and be mindful of the fact that I was stressed and provide me with a solution that fit into my life and not the other way around. So the holistic approach is one that people have talked about for decades. It's something that we really believe in.
Ladder uses cognitive behavioral therapy, right, to identify, which rungs that people need help on or what they...
Yeah, so when we talk about our use of CBT or cognitive behavioral therapy, it's really in the upfront and ongoing assessments of the consumer. So when a consumer comes to our platform, if they're not driven by a physician or a healthcare payer, they'll go through a variation of a assessment that will ultimately combine a wants analysis, a needs analysis, as well as their location. The wants analysis is really designed to help figure out what type of coach the consumer is looking for. Old, young, male, female, more of a cheerleader type or more of an analytical type. Having been an athlete, I've had a lot of coaches, and certain coaches resonate better. So we want to find out what type of coach the consumer is looking for. On the needs analysis, that's where we leverage CBT to help identify the deficits and or surpluses of the consumer relative to those four rungs, using all of that data and information to make the best match possible. So the assessment is done on the front end when a consumer comes onto the platform before they subscribe, and then on an ongoing basis every month. Because the relationship between a person and their body is both so intimate and so evolving, we always want to make the best match possible. That's not to say we would ever take a consumer away from a coach that they're doing well with. But in the event something changes in that consumer's wants or needs, we always want to make the best match possible.
How does Ladder differ from other health coaching options that are available today?
Yeah, it's a great question too. So, we're definitely not the first digital coaching platform out there. In the last few months, we've, seen Rise get acquired and Photocracy get acquired, and There's a lot of people that are dipping their toes into the water. I think Vita just came out with a study last week that has shown how successful they've been with their initial cohort with United Healthcare. But what we're doing differently is really based around our partnerships with health clubs. The partnerships with health clubs allow us to create a very unique audience building strategy because the partnerships are giving us explicit access to their trainers to populate the producer side of our platform. And the partnerships are also working with us. The partners are working with us to market our solution to their members as well as their former members and prospective members. Mm-hmm. Now, that audience building strategy creates a locally based supply and demand that allows us to facilitate a unique matchmaking strategy where we'll be matching consumer to producer geocentrically. So if you're a user in Boston, Mass, you're going to get matched with a coach that works within the driving distance that you would be willing to travel for fitness, as opposed to being a consumer in Boston who's matched with a coach in Arizona. And the reason we're doing that is because our goal isn't now and never has been to replace in-person training. It's rather to create an ecosystem where instead of 10% of gym members working with a coach 6 times per month in person, we have all gym members and all people working with a coach, but potentially less frequently in person. So from launch, the platform will be connecting consumer to local producer strictly via a digital relationship, though we have plans to move beyond a solely digital relationship to also include in person, where digital becomes the backbone, plugging and playing in person where need be. And that in person coaching will likely not just apply to fitness related coaches. It could be massage therapists, mental health professionals, anyone that is a service provider that can help put our consumers or clients in a better position to succeed and ultimately find happiness through health and wellness.
So the coaches are like health and fitness experts within the community, not just, they don't just work for Ladder, right? They work.
Yeah, none of them work for us.
Okay.
So no different than, Uber or Airbnb.
Mm-hmm.
All of our coaches are user group, what we call our producer user group, just like Uber has its drivers who are its producers and riders, consumers, or Airbnb has its hosts who are its producers and guests who are its consumers. I think that's the verbiage they use. Our producers will be the health and wellness professionals, and our consumers will be people who need or want to be healthier.
How do you find your coaches?
So from the onset, and this is when you look at the different platform business models, and they've been around long enough where we can start to aggregate data that teaches us what's working and what isn't working. One of the biggest problems is that, chicken and the egg, which comes first. You don't want too many coaches or they're not getting enough volume to warrant their ongoing engagement. And if there aren't enough coaches, there isn't a big enough of a supply to provide a solution to the consumer group. So by working with the commercial fitness industry, our partner gyms, and we've now partnered with 7 of the top 25 health club chains in the country, will be giving us explicit access to their trainers. So from launch, all of the producers on our platform will be coming from our partner facilities. And as we begin to aggregate data and optimize product, eventually we'll open it up to producers coming directly to us.
What does the experience look like for from a user's point of view on the app? Sure.
So the consumer comes to the platform. They go through an assessment that will take them between 60 and 90 seconds to complete. From there, a commoditized match is made. So we're matching them with one producer. They're not having the ability to pick. When the match is made and the relationship is accepted by the producer, engagement is driven from the producer to the consumer, from the coach to the client. The coach then builds a customized plan for the client. The plan is built in a monthly periodization and delivered to the client or consumer on a daily basis. The plan includes a health and wellness or fitness related plan, and also includes something called our promise. And promise is a way that we will essentially create structure on the platform. And it's either I will or I won't do something for 1 week, actually 5 days, designed to help govern the platform, but also to drive keystone habits or keystone behaviors that can help implement the process and ultimately make people more successful. From there, we have the data entry. So obviously to make the consumer coachable, we need to have an understanding, or the coach has to have an understanding of how they're doing. So we'll be able to link with a number of different other platforms like Apple Health Kit, but we'll also have a super high level data entry that we're calling swipe. The consumer will either swipe left for negative or right for positive in a number of different fields: sleep, activity, nutrition, energy, stress, with kind of a carrot at the end there, or we like to say the gold at the end of the rainbow, to see their squad, which is them and their immediate friends, limited at 5, to see how they're doing in comparison to their other members of their squad. They'll have to swipe through all the entry fields. All that data is aggregated through the platform to the producer dashboard, where the producer and consumer can engage seamlessly through the in-app chat. And the in-app chat is both direct one-to-one as well as crowdsourced. So if I'm out to dinner with my girlfriend and I want to know what I should order off the menu, I can take a picture of the menu and send it to my coach. Well, I'll immediately know if my coach is in-app or not in-app. If my coach is not in-app and I need a response right away, I can choose to essentially poll the audience. And then the question will go out to other producers who are in-app at the given time, and will compensate their ability to take layups, which is what we call them, and answer questions for other consumers that aren't their own, by a point system that will essentially weight them higher in the matchmaking process and ultimately drive them more clients.
Okay. Is that something that they would be doing every day?
Hopefully multiple times a day.
Okay.
We want people to swipe as much as humanly possible. We've kept it very open-ended for a reason. It's not, if you ate a good meal, swipe right. If you ate a bad meal, swipe left. We want people to swipe right if they're feeling positive about their nutrition, and swipe left if they're feeling negative. The swipe is something we're very bullish on, and we've tested a lot. And the potential of using the data from swipe could be very powerful. Assume you're my coach and I'm your client, and I'm continuously swiping poorly on nutrition around lunchtime. That would enable the platform to prompt advice to the coach, to you, in a number of different ways. You might be prompted to reach out the Sunday before to go grocery shopping and potentially do some meal preparations, maybe the night before to pack your lunch for the next day, and in mid-morning perhaps to drive positive motivation and encouragement. So, given the amount of time that people are spending on their phones, we believe that the trigger or the communication vehicle of in-app chat will far more effectively drive the relationship between coach and client than the current norms.
And what's the reason behind limiting the squad to 5?
It's again, great question. When we look at platform business models, and rules and regulations are super important. When we look at like a character limit for Twitter, or, you can't zoom on Instagram pictures, things that might to the average user seem silly, like why haven't they thought of this? Well, all of those companies, like the ones I just named, they've thought of everything, right? So, if you took the character limit away from Twitter, it would just be medium, and that's not necessarily what people are looking for, as we've seen. So, we wanted to create a very small group, because a lot of what we're doing is centered around accountability. When you start to look at the different theories of behavior modification, we believe that the motivation and/or accountability is really that secret sauce. The thing about accountability is that you can't fake it. It's a directly corresponding to the strength of a relationship. So, yes, we're going to try and create relationships between coaches and clients, but we also know that the peer-to-peer accountability can be significant. So we wanted to create a group of sorts that was very intimate.
That's great. I think it's important also for like when people are trying to make change to make it measurable. But I think like a lot of people, if they want to lose weight, they might just say, oh, I want to lose weight, rather than putting a specific number on it. That way they can, like you said, hold themselves accountable to that number.
Yeah, the goal setting is everything, right? When you look at, I'm a pretty process-oriented guy, and I study coaches, not necessarily fitness coaches, but when you look at, football, guys like Bill Belichick and Nick Saban that are very, process-centric. And when we look at health and wellness coaching, we have to understand that it's a business. Not to get too off topic here, but I have an anecdote that does a fairly good job of articulating this point. My father was a professional baseball player, and then he was a professional racquetball player. And when racquetball pros and tennis pros came to be, my dad was involved with creating the curriculum for racquetball professionals. And he always says that he ruined the sport of racquetball, because while his counterpart, who was creating the curriculum for tennis, was teaching tennis professionals to spend maybe 6 months on a two-handed backhand and 6 months on, this serve and 6 months on this. He believed that racquetball was an easy sport to play. You could teach someone how to play it in 2 weeks, and then they'd go off and, play on their own. The result was that there was no money in being a racquetball professional. So when we look at the existing relationship between personal trainers and clients, they're doing everything they can to retain their clients. So the process they're using isn't necessarily the best process for the consumer. So what we're trying to drive into our coaches is the goal creation of short-term goals, while experiencing a series of micro wins, keeping people positive throughout the progression, and winning along the way as you're working towards that bigger picture goal, because it's likely going to change when you get close to it, and you're never going to reach it anyway. So just driving that relationship and creating a true relationship is really what we believe the best thing is for the consumer, and ultimately the best thing for the coach as well.
What are some trends in the fitness industry that excite you and some that might worry you?
When you say the fitness industry, I immediately think of the fitness industry having two sides again, the direct consumer and the commercial space. When we look at the commercial industry, it needs to change, or it's not going to exist any longer. 20 years ago, health club memberships were more expensive than they are now. And today, you can get a health club membership for basically nothing, right? Because for $19.99 a month, you can get a gym membership and unlimited childcare and unlimited tanning, when unlimited childcare and unlimited tanning or unlimited tanning would cost exponentially more than that $19.99 per month. So that true cost of a gym membership, and often in many cases, is actually a negative delta. The commercial fitness industry, however, has been able to rely on such a high rate of inactivity. For a lot of people, paying that $19.99 or $29.99 per month is worth not giving up. And for most people, the only thing they're doing to push forward their relationship or their journey towards health and wellness is having that gym membership. So is it worth $19.99 a month, $29.99 a month to not quit and just give up on yourself? And, when we look at that, that's really why we see a fitness industry, in my opinion, that's so stagnant. On the direct-to-consumer side, we see everything marketed through before and after pictures and bodybuilders and bikini models, because people care about the way they look, and they care about at least the aesthetic side of it, if not necessarily being healthy. And with technology how it is now, it's not too difficult to transact on offers like that. You see a picture of a guy with a six-pack who supposedly weighed 300 pounds months before, and if you're really thinking about it, it's probably not realistic, but it transacts, it creates money, and we see a lot of companies that are driving models like that and transacting on the low-hanging fruit. In the commercial side, we see a lot of gym owners that are making real estate plays. They know that they're going to have a 50% attrition rate. They're going to lose half their members every year, and they know that they're going to have 60% of their members who keep paying and don't show up. So the model has worked well. A lot of people have made a lot of money for a long time. But in my opinion, unless the commercial industry can start to drive more of a dynamic pricing model and drive more utility to the consumer, commercial fitness centers as we know them today won't be around forever. That's not to say that I think they won't, because I think the industry will change. But we, in speaking on behalf of the commercial industry, we need to understand that and make some changes.
Do you think that some of the giants in the industry have to fall in order for others to actually start to make those changes, or do you think that they're realizing now that they need to make those changes?
Well, that's interesting, because when we look at the commercial fitness industry, for the most part, we're still in our first generation of ownership. So the guys at the top, for the most part, have been guys and gals who have been around since the very beginning. So they've had the opportunity to make a lot of mistakes. And like any emerging market or dynamic industry, there'll be winners and losers. I think that there are a lot of people that are doing well now that will adapt and pivot and come out of the other side of it successful. But I also think there'll be those that refuse to change, and their fate will likely be less positive.
You said before that it's in your nature to go all in with whatever you're working on. What do you see as some of the benefits and drawbacks to this?
I don't know. I'm very passionate about the fitness industry. When I look at the space, I've had between my father, mostly my father, also my mother, and a lot of the people and opportunities I've had because of my dad being who he is and having been in the industry for so long, I really feel like, it's almost my duty to use everything that the industry has taught me to help push it forward and help drive positive change, so that the guys and gals who sacrificed so much and were so innovative decades ago will have the opportunity to leave the industry better off than they found it. So as it correlates to being all in, I guess it's just my nature. If I decide I'm going to do something and I put my name on it and I raise money into it and I make promises around it, there's no turning back. It's interesting because we see companies, we see startups where companies close down because they don't necessarily have the requisite runway, or one of the assumptions they made ultimately didn't come true, and they close up shop and they wait a little bit, find a new idea, and go shake their tin can and raise some more money and start something else. That might be great for some people. That's not me. I just don't know how to do that. I wouldn't be comfortable. I wouldn't be able to live with myself if I didn't leave it all on the table and do everything I possibly could to show returns to our investors, to help solve problems for our consumers, to improve the lives of our producers, and to, put all of the people who work for our company and will work for our company in the best possible position to succeed. So, our success or our failure rather is, in a lot of cases, in our ability to hang on just a little bit longer. I mean, there's been tough times with Ladder. There'll be many more tough times. It is what it is. That's the nature of the game. That's the job I chose, being a creator of businesses, a builder of teams. And you can't give up. So that's just how I am, I guess.
What's been the toughest lesson for you to learn running your own company?
Shoot. We could have a whole nother podcast on that question. But, I guess the toughest lesson to learn is that you need to understand your limitations. At my last company, I was all in to a point where it was almost counterproductive. I ultimately found myself in a position where I didn't have the power to make changes that I thought were necessary. I was the chief executive, but I was a member of a board, and I was, representing the shareholders, and ultimately I didn't have the sway that I would have needed to do some of the things that I thought the company should have done. And that was a tough pill to swallow, because on a day-to-day basis, you're running the company, you're responsible for the employees, you're responsible for the customers. But if you don't have the power to make changes and pivot, it's tough to really take ownership over that. So with Ladder, it's a different structure where the head is heavy that holds the crown, I guess. It's like being a coach in the NFL. You have a great season, everyone thinks you're the greatest. You have a bad season, you get fired. And for me, I've always wanted to be in a position where my compensation or my rewards or my acclaim, if you will, was based on my performance. And as long as I know that that's the case, I'm very comfortable with that. Understanding that isn't always the case can be a little difficult. So I'm psyched for where we're at now. And, we're surrounding ourselves with great people, people that can help us, that we can learn from. And more importantly, just the type of people that we want to work with and that we want to be in business with.
What do you think the most common misconception is that founders have when they're starting their own company?
I mean, it's not easy. It's very hard. And no matter what, there are going to be a lot of problems to overcome and things that go wrong, and everything's going to take longer and everything's going to cost more money, and you're going to think you did the right thing for, one of your employees, and they're going to see otherwise. So it's, super important to stay true to yourself and have a level head and create a sphere of influence that is there to help you as well. Because you can't do it on your own. And you just have to kind of set that North Star and work towards it every day. Having been an athlete and then got into the business world and spent some time professionally now, every day, what I find myself doing is closer and closer to what I was doing when I was, in college and after college. It's a team. The team has a goal. Everyone has to play their part, and everyone has to be in the same ship going in the same direction. I guess the toughest lesson is to realize that you're not going to be an overnight success, and you've got to be persistent. You've got to have grit. We talk about, we have our core values, which I can go either way on. They're kind of cliche at this point, and we tried to make ours as far from cliche as possible. But if I could pick one, it would be grit, because so much about this game of startups and business creation and team creation is about grit. It is about being willing to do the things that other people aren't willing to do, being willing to hang on a little bit longer when most people would stop, and just being able to push yourself. And whether it's in sports or in startups or in business in general, most of the people that are successful have that. And it's definitely one of the things that we look for. Whenever I bring someone onto a team, I always say, I'm only asking for two things, a positive attitude and an unparalleled work ethic. And if you can give me those two things, it's my job to put you in the best possible position to succeed, both personally and professionally. We're not curing cancer here. It's not brain surgery. If you care about what you're doing and you're willing to put the work in and you're willing to have a positive attitude and be optimistic when things seem hard, you'll be successful. At least in my mind, you will.
You have to have a great work ethic. You can teach them anything that they need to learn to do their job, right? Whereas
not necessarily me. Someone can.
Yeah.
I think my job is more so to find the people that have that great work ethic. And, you're not owed respect from anyone. You have to earn it. And everyone has the opportunity to earn the respect of their peers. And it's the one thing that you can control. And in my opinion, it's the one thing that it's completely unacceptable not to have. That's the place at the table. You have to be willing to outwork the guy or gal next to you, or you're probably in the wrong line of work.
Do you have a stance on people calling themselves entrepreneurs?
I think that an entrepreneur is something you're called, not something you should call yourself. It's interesting though, because even for me, like I'll be at like a dinner party with a a colleague of my girlfriend's, and people will say, well, what do you do? And my first reaction is to be like, well, what do you mean? What do I do like for fun? What do I do for work? How do I make money? So it's a weird question anyway, but if it's pertaining to what you do professionally, if you are, I say I work for a startup, right? Because that's how I see my job. I'm a co-founder, but I have a role within the company. I'm a CEO, so I work for the company just like everyone works for the company. I wouldn't say I'm an entrepreneur. I would never introduce myself as an entrepreneur. I actually feel weird, like, referencing it on like LinkedIn and stuff. But it's also a goal, right? If you're so good at doing it over and over again, if you're a Peter Thiel or a Reid Hoffman or a Elon Musk, and he's an entrepreneur, because he can't say it would take him 10 minutes to say what he does. I'm the CEO of this company. I'm the CEO of that company. I thought of this concept that's going to get people from here to there in a quarter of the time. So he's an entrepreneur, and he's earned the right to probably call himself that. I haven't, so I don't. But I guess it's a phrase that people refer to startup founders or early employees as.
Just do the rapid fire questions now. What's your favorite and least favorite workout?
My favorite workout, my favorite like movement pattern is probably a squat. And it's solely because that's what I'm best at. And my least favorite movement is anything overhead. So like any shoulder exercise. I've had a few shoulder surgeries, so my range of motion sucks, and I'm not nearly as strong as I probably should be. So I don't like doing things that I'm not good at, and I like doing things I'm good at, I guess.
How much can you squat?
Shoot, that's like to preface this, I wore a t-shirt earlier today that said my code is more impressive than your bench press, and I like to wear that, get some weird looks. I don't know how to code. I look like I probably have a decent bench press. I don't know. I used to be able to squat close to 600 pounds. I don't really squat heavy weight anymore.
Mm-hmm. Do you have cheat days?
Yeah, shoot, almost every day. No, I try and be super healthy during the week. So, Monday through Friday, hopefully, oftentimes it's Monday through Thursday. I try and eat really clean. I usually work out every day. I just love to exercise. But on the weekends, I'll eat whatever I want for the most part, without being a glutton, and have some cocktails, have some beers. So I'm not too strict on the weekends, but I try to not let the wheels fall off.
What's your favorite thing to eat on the weekends when you get a chance?
I play this game with anyone who will listen. Like, what are your 3 favorite foods? So I already knew the answer to this. I love cheeseburgers, especially if they come with French fries.
Yeah.
I love pizza, and I love Mexican food.
3 of my favorites too, right there. Do you have any favorite tools that help make your life and work easier?
Yeah, we use Slack, which is incredible. I use Calendly, which I like a lot.
Yeah.
What do I use for a task manager? Productive, which I really like. We're psyched to start working with Intercom, not as necessarily a personal tool, but a communication platform for the business. Yeah, I try and keep things as simple as possible. I downloaded the developer version of the new operating system, iOS operating system, and my phone has been like terrible since then. So I was super excited. I was like, oh, I have this developer account. I'm going to download the new operating system as soon as I can. And now like my phone turns off every like hour.
Yeah.
I guess if you like audiobooks count, that's kind of a tool. Mm-hmm. I listen to audiobooks probably 2 to 3 a week. So I've got a great arsenal of audiobooks. I wish I could share them with people, but they just sit there never to be listened again on my phone. When I exercise, when I do cardio, I always listen to audiobooks. So my goal for this year was to listen to 100, and I think I'll crush that goal.
Nice. You prefer to listen to them than to read them?
Yeah, I think it's more efficient for me.
Yeah.
I try to read sometimes before bed, not as much as I'd like to, but the overwhelming majority of my book consumption is via audio.
Do you use Audible?
I don't. I think I got a free Audible subscription with my Amazon Prime account, and I tried it out, but I just download them from the App Store.
Okay. So what are some of your favorite books?
Let's see. My all-time favorite books. I love Hard Thing About Hard Things.
Yep. Comes up all the time.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's just such it's one of the few books where you can hear an entrepreneur, or should I say entrepreneur, a startup founder's point of view in a completely transparent fashion, especially a guy that's gone on to be so successful. So it's nice to hear that other people have had problems. The Icarus Deception is another one of my favorites. Seth Godin's really good at, I usually give that book to most of our new employees. Simon Sinek's Start With Why is an old favorite. I recently read, right now I'm listening to Disrupted, which is okay. I just listened to the buy side. I like once in a while to listen to books about traders and stuff. I have a lot of friends who are bankers. But yeah, I try and listen to The Third Wave. I finished last week. I liked a lot. Yeah, anything that comes out that's new, I try and listen to. A lot of things lately on behavioral change, on habit creation and habit formation. Also on platform business models. The founder and CEO of a company called Applico out of New York that we started working with. It's a design and build dev shop that only works with platform business models. Their founder, Alex Mozad, just came out with a new book that I actually had to read because it wasn't available on audiobook. I think it's called Platform Innovation. No, it's called Modern Monopoly, and I really like that. His stuff's awesome. He's probably the most knowledgeable person I've spoken to about platform business models. So yeah, just try and read stuff that I enjoy and that can help me do a better job of leading the team.
Have you read The Power of Habit?
I have.
That's good.
I have, yeah. A lot of the stuff for the keystone behavior and things we're doing with that initially came from some of the stuff I took away from that book and then researched more. Yeah.
What advice would you give to your 25-year-old self?
I don't really have any regrets because I think all my experiences, good or bad, taught me a lot and put me in the position I'm in today. I think the way that I was personally with money when I had a lot more of it was probably not ideal. I guess it's taken having less money to understand that it's not the end all. So I guess if I have any regrets or could do anything differently, it would probably be centered around, some of the things I did with money relative to investments or just spending money. Other than that, I would have started reading more earlier. I was never a great student growing up. My goal was to play professional baseball for the rest of my life. So the way I looked at it, anything I was doing was either getting me closer to or further away from that. So unfortunately, this would be to my 12 to 18-year-old self. I wasn't as good of a student as I should have been. And, when I realized that when it comes to education, you have the access to information just like everyone else does. So I would have liked to be more aggressive in my willingness to learn and speak to people and just be, like a lifelong learner, I guess. I would have started a little earlier.
What's something about you that most people don't know?
Probably how much I read. If you ask people if I would read or listen to, I guess, maybe a couple hundred books this year, a lot of them would probably say you were crazy. That's probably, something that a lot of people don't know about me.
Just to close out here, a few more questions.
Yeah.
Where can people find out more about Ladder?
Our website, so ladder.fit. We're actually doing it over, so the new site will be launching hopefully by the end of next week. We're just cleaning it up a little bit, making it a little more focused on our solution. Right now, the site is pretty broad, and for the most part, until we launch, it's more of a lander and just kind of a information outlet. Obviously, upon launch, given that we are mobile only, it will be driving people to the App Store. But the new site, ladder.fit, will launch hopefully by the end of next week. So you can check us out there or on Instagram at ladder.fit, I believe. Ladderfit, maybe. Or on Twitter, same handle. Or me at Brett Maloley.
Do you have any parting thoughts, advice, or suggestions for the audience?
Shoot, not really suggestions. I guess when it comes to advice, just, don't take yourself too seriously. Realize that no matter how smart you are, there's going to be ups and downs. Surround yourself with great people. Work really hard. And try and do whatever you can to control your own destiny.
And we'll leave it at that. Brett, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Yeah, man. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Don't forget to enter into this week's book giveaway for The Power of Habit by subscribing and writing a review on iTunes. By subscribing, you'll get all of my new episodes automatically fresh onto your podcast app. So make sure to do so, and it really helps me out in the rankings and with acquiring new listeners. I really, really appreciate it. Remember, all show notes can be found at startupbostonpodcast.com. And make sure to follow the podcast on Twitter at StartupBossCast. That's Startup BOS Cast. Thank you for listening, and until next time, if you have any feedback, ideas for guests, or just want to say hi, you can reach me at nick@startupbostonpodcast.com. That's NIC@startupbostonpodcast.com. Cheers.